Last week, the Senate Subcommittee on the Near East held a hearing entitled Iranian Terrorism in the Middle East, obviously after the attack in Bulgaria. As some background, let's not forget the last round of talks with Iran were held on Monday and Tuesday, June 18th and 19th, Monday, Tuesday. That Friday, 44 senators wrote a letter to President Obama, among other things, saying that the president should not take the military option off the table. Hearings were that was on Friday. Hearings were Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, the following day, there was a House Armed Services Committee hearing entitled "Addressing the Iranian Nuclear Challenge: Understanding Military Options." So we have the government keeping pressure on in terms of hearings and other reports that are coming out. And I'll give you some of the highlights from this particular hearing. First, one of the witnesses referred to a declassified CIA report from 1986, which explains that Iranian terrorism stems from two basic propositions. Number one, they believe it a religious duty to export the Islamic Revolution. Number two, that terrorism is part of their foreign policy. Now, these propositions are in a declassified CIA report, but they're straight out of the Iranian constitution. The Iranian constitution says exactly that they have a religious obligation to export their revolution, and it's part of their foreign policy. The Iranians, another point made was that Iran is able to call on numerous Middle East terrorist groups, should it wish to carry out attacks, that Hezbollah doesn't carry out an attack without Iran's okay, that over the last 10 years, Iran has provided Hezbollah with approximately $200 million a year. And the report, witnesses at the hearing highlighted certain attacks, or attempted attacks over the years. Number one, someone said that testified that the Khobar Towers attack in Saudi Arabia in 1996, the Supreme Leader himself gave the operatives, the Saudi Hezbollah cells, the okay to go ahead with it. But let's not forget, Iran is Shia, Saudi Arabia is Sunni, but there is a Shia community in Saudi Arabia, mostly the eastern part of Saudi Arabia. A city called Qatif has been in the news. That is all the way on the eastern part of Saudi Arabia. It's a Shia city. There have been some protests there. So the Khobar Towers attack was done by Iran through their Saudi Arabian Hezbollah cells. The DC plot, where Saudi Arabia plotted to kill the ambassador of Saudi Arabia. Director of MI5 was quoted by someone at the hearing saying that all the evidence leads straight back to Iranian leadership, quote, end quote. In March this year, Turkey foiled a plot Iranian plot to hit diplomatic missions in Istanbul. In June, 2 Iranians were arrested in Kenya with explosives on their way to deliver them to Al-Shabaab in Somalia. July 7th, we know that Iranians, a Hezbollah operative was arrested in Cyprus, planning an attack that was similar to the Bulgarian attack. So see, these are some of the highlights from that hearing. It's online, it's available, it's very interesting. Going to a different topic, the House Subcommittee on Transportation held a hearing entitled, quote, "A decade after 9/11, could American flight schools unknowingly be training terrorists," unquote. The Transportation Security Administration has what is called an alien flight student program. It prohibits flight trainers from training foreigners without a security assessment. The representative, a senior official from TSA, in his statement was entitled, "TSA's process to ensure foreign flight students don't pose security risks has weaknesses." And the most disturbing piece of information from that testimony was that 25,000 foreign nationals in the FAA's database are not in the TSA's database. In other words, if they were doing things correctly, everyone in the TSA's database would be in the FAA's database. So we have 25,000 in the FAA's database registered as pilots, not in the TSA's database. In other words, they weren't vetted properly.